This is 1000 Museum. 62 stories of curving concrete and glass rise from the edge of downtown Miami, designed by the late Pritzker Prize-winning architect Zaha Hadid. The building was marketed as a trophy address for global wealth. Its duplex penthouse was once offered at an asking price of $49 million. Years later, the Condo Association would allege that one contested vote left nearly $1.4 million out of the reserves meant to protect the building. How did a project backed by a $225 million construction loan end up facing an $82.7 million foreclosure claim? Why did the same association file another lawsuit over alleged construction defects? And why does neither case name the architecture firm whose reputation helped make this building famous?
First completed unit of the late famed architect Zaha Hadid's downtown Miami project that's known as 1000 Museum.
This is truly her last signature sculpture.
To understand the stakes, start with the woman who designed it. Zaha Hadid was born in Baghdad and built her career in London. In 2004, she became the first woman to receive the Pritzker Architecture Prize. Her later work included museums, opera houses, cultural centres, and the London Aquatic Centre built for the Olympics. Her buildings were known for curves, long spans, and forms that demanded close cooperation between architects, engineers, fabricators, and contractors. In 2012, a Miami development group brought Hadid a waterfront site at 1000 Biscayne Boulevard, across from Museum Park and the Perez Art Museum, Miami. The goal was her first residential skyscraper in the Western Hemisphere. The project was announced the following year and marketed as a rare chance to own part of a Zaha Hadid tower with large residences, private services, and amenities aimed at buyers who could afford almost anything.
This building, which is quite, complex and quite difficult, and achieving it in this way, I think it's been fantastic.
That strategy worked. The building attracted owners including hedge fund billionaire Ken Griffin's soccer star David Beckham, his wife Victoria's singer Mark Anthony, and many other wealthy buyers. These buyers did not come for an ordinary condominium. They came for a building where architecture itself was part of the product. This was not supposed to be another glass tower with a famous name printed on the brochure. It was supposed to be the finished version of Hadid's vision. The design did give Miami something different. Instead of hiding most of the structure behind walls and glass, the tower pushed much of the work to its perimeter. The concrete exoskeleton carries gravity and lateral loads while reducing the need for interior columns and opening up larger floor plans. The curved frame thickens, narrows, and branches as it climbs, turning engineering into the building's most visible feature. Beneath the tower, Desimone Consulting Engineering, the structural engineering firm for the project, designed a 12-foot thick matte foundation supported by 227 auger cast piles. Each pile is 30 inches in diameter and extends more than 165 feet underground. Above ground, roughly 5,000 glass fiber reinforced concrete components were fabricated in Dubai and integrated into the tower's permanent formwork. The result gave the building its white-ribbed outline and helped earn it the nickname the Scorpion Tower.
We're trying to make the impossible possible.
It's almost like the outside of a scorpion, where it has its hard shell that holds its body together, and trying to make it real.
Construction began in 2015. In March 2016, Hadid visited the site. Co-developer Louis Birdman later said the tower had reached only the 7th floor. Days after that visit, Hadid was admitted to a Miami hospital while being treated for bronchitis and died after a heart attack. She was 65. The project continued without her. Zaha Hadid Architects, the London-based firm she founded, stayed on the project. Chris Lepine, the firm's project director for 1000 Museum, helped carry the design through completion. The tower opened in 2019, 3 years after Hadid's death. By then, the most visible promises had become real. There was the rooftop helipad. Early sales documents warned that its use depended on FAA and other government approvals and gave no guarantee about timing. The private heliport later entered the airport record as an active facility. Inside, the attention to luxury went much further. Art in common areas was selected as a tribute to Hadid's place as the first female Pritzker laureate. Custom scents were developed for different amenity spaces. Even residents' door handles came from a series designed by Hadid. For the buyer, that was the promise the famous architect's vision would not stop at the facade. It would reach the lobby, the doors, the scent in the air, and the route from the roof to the airport. The spectacle was delivered. Then the financial structure behind it came under pressure. The debt behind the finished tower. The original construction loan was $225 million, issued in 2016 by Fortress Investment Group, a New York investment firm. Over time, parts of that debt changed hands. By early 2021, the remaining loan position had reached Motcomb Estates, an investment vehicle tied to Reuben Brothers, the London investment firm run by billionaire brothers David and Simon Reuben. In March 2021, Motcomb filed an $82.7 million foreclosure complaint tied to 15 developer-owned units that remained unsold. The building had been completed less than 2 years earlier. Co-developer Lewis Birdman called the lawsuit unexpected and said the sales team had just completed a strong period of sales. The developers did not lose the building. Less than 3 weeks later, they secured a new $90 million inventory loan and used the refinancing to resolve the foreclosure fight. By December 2021, the $90 million inventory loan had been repaid. That matters because the failure here is not a simple story of a tower going bankrupt and closing its doors. The foreclosure crisis was real, and the refinancing was real. The building kept selling. Wealthy buyers kept closing. The debt problem was solved. The foreclosure was resolved. The reserve fight was only beginning. In December 2020, while the developer still controlled a majority of units, and therefore a powerful voting bloc in the association, the Condo Association voted to waive reserve funding for a fiscal year. In 2026, the association sued the developer over that decision. The association alleges that the vote applied to the building's third fiscal year, when Florida law did not allow the developer to waive reserve funding in the way alleged. The complaint also claims that some units, including developer-controlled units, lacked valid voting certificates, which the association argues should have reduced the number of authorized votes. According to the complaint, the result was that nearly $1.4 million was not contributed to the association's reserve account. The association is seeking to recover that amount plus more than $84,000 in allegedly unpaid service charges. The lawsuit further alleges that the developer orchestrated the vote because it did not have the money to make the reserve contribution. Those claims have not been decided by a judge. For ordinary homeowners, a reserve fund is easier to understand as the building's long-term repair account. A family may save for a roof and air conditioning system, or a major plumbing job. A condominium does the same thing at a much larger scale. Elevators age, waterproofing fails, mechanical systems wear out, concrete needs inspection and repair. If money is not saved earlier, owners can face large assessments later. And there was another problem. In February 2025, the 1000 Museum Condominium Association had already filed a separate lawsuit alleging construction defects against the developer and a group of contractors and subcontractors. The publicly reported details remain limited, and the claims are still being litigated. The reserve lawsuit asks who controlled the money. The next question is who can legally be held responsible. Zaha Hadid Architects designed the tower and remained involved after Hadid's death, but it did not act as the developer general contractor or condo association. The lawsuits reported here focus on development decisions, construction work subcontractors, and association governance. Neither lawsuit names Zaha Hadid Architects. The firm has since continued working on other major projects, including a new luxury tower on the former Champlain Towers South site in Surfside, where 98 people died in one of the deadliest building collapses in modern US history. That does not mean architecture is irrelevant. It means responsibility in a mega project is divided. The architect can design the shape. The structural engineer can calculate how it stands. Contractors and subcontractors build the systems. The developer arranges financing, sales, and delivery. The condo association eventually governs common property and money. To an owner, all of those layers arrive inside one address. In court, they are separate. That separation is one reason famous architecture can raise expectations without guaranteeing the ownership experience that follows. A buyer may purchase the name, the view, the helipad, and the custom details. None of those features automatically answer a simpler question: who controls the money after the sale? And while the courts sort through those questions, the resale record has become more complicated. What happened after the sale? Mark Anthony bought his unit for $11 million in 2022 and sold it for $8.6 million in 2025, a loss of about $2.4 million before transaction costs. The Beckhams tell a different story. They bought their penthouse for $19.8 million and sold it in 2026 for $24.6 million, producing a gain on the sale price. Ken Griffin also listed a penthouse in the building. Those deals do not prove that lawsuits drove owners out. One seller lost money, another made millions. 1000 Museum is not a dead project with no buyers. It is a luxury building where architecture can still command money while the association fights over what happened behind the scenes. One disputed vote triggered a $1.4 million fight beneath a $450 million tower. And the argument is no longer confined to one address. Half a mile away in downtown Miami, the Aston Martin Residences Condo Association is suing its developer and related parties in a separate case seeking more than $5 million. The allegations are different. That lawsuit accuses the developer and related entities of self-dealing through contracts, allegedly inflated charges and other financial misconduct before owners took control of the association. The defendants have the right to contest those claims. The comparison is not that every luxury tower has the same problem. It is that two very expensive buildings in the same part of Miami have raised a similar governance question. What happens when the people selling the units also have substantial influence over the association that is supposed to protect owners? Some will say the developers deserve credit for refinancing the debt, keeping the building operating, and avoiding a worse foreclosure outcome. Others will say a developer-controlled association should never be able to decide how much protection future owners receive from reserves. Both arguments can be made in good faith. The foreclosure was solved. The reserve dispute was not. The lawsuits are still active and the allegations remain unproven. But nobody who made this decision is being asked to justify it directly to the owners before the courts do it for them. The tower succeeded as a monument. The mega project failed as a promise. The project you just watched took years to fail publicly. The next one on this channel took longer and cost more. Subscribe because by the time it makes the news, it's already too late. Comments are open. Name your city.